Yeah, for sure, man. And I tell you what, if my life was a movie, it would be a kick-ass movie. So my low of the low was really super low, and I literally hit rock bottom. I was homeless, and I was addicted to pretty much everything, booze. I would end up in ditches, and that's where the term ditches to riches came from. The last part of my addiction led me to a rollover car accident, and I was literally thrown into a ditch. You just nailed it right on the head. It's not what we do that is our passion. It's who we do it for and how we do it that is the passion.
Welcome to Learn or Be Learned. This is the podcast show where I read books and show how you can apply it to your life. And, like a true anthropologist, I dig up stories on what people are up to and how that can impact you as well. I'm your host, Shiva, and let's talk. All right, everyone. So I'm here with Ron Worley. He's an author. Ron, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. My name's Ron Worley. I am an author, a family man, an entrepreneur, and I live my life according to 10 values I call the Worley Way.
I guess let's just jump right into it. What is the 10 values?
So I will give you a couple because I want them to read my book if they want to get all 10. But you know what? Today, so my 10 values change all the time, the way I use them. And currently I'm using, I really put a lot of effort into family, freedom, and hard work. And that's just the top three that I'm focused on where I'm at in my life today.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, when I was younger, it was much different. So I'm 48 now. So, from 30 to 48, life changes a lot. So,
Mm-hmm.
so should your values.
Okay. And you had a book called Ditches to Riches. Is this where those values developed? Did it develop as you were going on your journey? How did this come about?
Yeah. So, I'm an addict or was an addict. I don't believe that we're stuck with that title forever. I beat it and been sober for 18 years now. And about 4 or 5 years into my, sobriety, I just felt like I was purposeless. I was kind of flailing around, I was successful. I had, my kids, I was starting to see success at work and, owning businesses and things like that. But it just it didn't feel right. There was no meaning to what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I met a guy named Jim Hensel who, he owns Mayhem Mindset, and he and I sat down and talked, and lo and behold, I needed some sort of code in my life, a reason to be doing everything I was doing, a purpose. And so we came up with 10 values. I call him my man coach. And I think every man needs a coach, and we're just wired that way where, if you think about the Marines, and their chants and the Army and whatnot, or even if you did any sports at all in your life, there was always the coach always had mantra that you follow to keep everybody kind of organized and together. And same applies to my life and to most people's lives. We can get behind something, and that something is focused on our purpose in the world. You're going to be a lot more successful. And so that's what I did. We came up with 10 values, called the Worley Way. I posted them up at my house, on a big, huge poster. And I told my kids, okay, this is how we're going to live now. And so I raised them according to those values. If they got in trouble or, we're having, Y's in the road, or forks in the road, we would come back to those values, and we'd sit down and go through them and see where maybe they needed to work, or where we could use other values to help them out. And it seemed to work. My kids were very, susceptible to that kind of talking, thinking. And I was able to talk to their hearts much differently than than pointing a finger at them when they got in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And so we moved it on to my wife and I decided to do the same thing in in our businesses. We were going through employees left and right. In fact, we had 24 employees in a year. So every 2 weeks I was hiring a new employee, and it was exhausting and expensive. And so then we started hiring according to the Worley Way.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden our employees were sticking around. And it was really cool because we no longer were we owner or manager and employee. We were a family all
Mm-hmm.
together. And there was sort of this matriarch that kept us all like put together like glue, you know. It was
Mm-hmm.
cool.
So you're saying these values that are in your book are versatile. You were able to apply in your business, your personal life.
Absolutely. And I tell everybody, it's not always about using my values. You should have your own values as well. Mine will work in business and in life for sure. They work for me. They work for my anybody that I coach. But absolutely, you should have your own. When my kids got old enough, I think 19, 20 years old is a good age if they're mentally capable of thinking that way. Just start coming up with your own and have a focus for your life. It's all about the purpose, man. We need to have purpose in our life in order to have meaning,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just it.
So I guess to, backtrack, can you take me and the audience back a little bit when you kind of had this movie-like moment of where your life changed around? When we watch that movie and then the hero or the protagonist or whatever turns their life around and things start to get better. Can you give us a little bit of a mental picture of what that was like before, when you started to make that realization and change, and then how you are now?
Yeah, for sure, man. And I tell you what, if my life was a movie, it would be a kick-ass movie. So my low of the low was really super low, and I literally hit rock bottom. I was homeless in 2003, and I was addicted to pretty much everything. Anytime I drank booze, I would do everything, and so
Mm-hmm.
I would end up on these binges that I would end up in ditches, and that's where the term "ditches to riches" came from. The last part of my addiction led me to a rollover car accident, and I was literally thrown into a ditch, and that was sort of my wake up call. At the time, I was heavily using, and I wasn't able to see my children, thank
Mm-hmm.
God. And so it had been about 6 months that I hadn't seen them, and they were every bit of every reason of why I was alive or working towards anything anyway.
How old are
And
you?
I was 30 at that time, so quite old in my eyes. I late bloomer as far as getting my stuff together. So, but yeah, that's when the change happened. When I was laying in that ditch, and I called my mother and I said, "Hey, can you help me? I'm in the hospital. I need a little bit of money to try and find a place to stay or whatever." And she told me no. Um, and that was my last bridge that I had burnt. And she was off the Ron train. Uh, and I wasn't able to see my kids, and it just was killing me. My heart was broken. I knew I had to change, and I wasn't going to die. I had all these things happen to me, from childhood on, that should have either killed me or, landed me in prison. And somehow I was still out there. And so I knew there was a higher purpose for me, and I just didn't know what it was. So it was time to change. And that change took effect over, I mean, it was pretty quick in my eyes. I went to AA meetings I went to 90 meetings in 30 days. I went hard charge at getting sober. And really the reason why is because I wanted to hurry up and get my kids back. So they were the absolute reason to get sober. They weren't the reason that I stayed sober. Um, that I needed something to change my mind at that time. But once you get sober and start having life without drugs and alcohol, man, life is so good. Um, and I would wake up and not be hungover, or I had a pillow I could lay on. That was cool. So, so yeah, that was the change. I found a job right away. Like a month into my sobriety, I found a job, and I was quite content just working. And I knew that that wasn't going to be my forever job, but that job got me a 1-bedroom apartment. It got me started where I could see my kids. I was responsible. I had a bed for them. And I just slowly, for that first year, started working towards real goals like owning my own business and things like that. And the rest is history, as they say. I'm always trying to start something every year. I try to have some sort of new project or business that I can start up, and I call them passions. My kids call them new addictions. you know, I only the addictions are for money now or for purpose rather than just drugs. I did bodybuilding for a while. That was when I knew I was still had this addictive personality, because I started working out and then all of a sudden I wanted to be a bodybuilder, and I wanted to, I had to get all big and buff and go that route. Eventually I bought these nutrition stores and those, then I didn't just buy one, I had to own 4, and it just kept going. And, that's how it works for me.
So you had your first job and you kind of built momentum. So when you kind of started your first business and stuff, and I'm sure this is probably in your book, right? It talks about how you grew your business and everything, which I'm excited to check out, by the way, to check out your book. Do you mind giving a little bit of a gist of where did you get that knowledge from? Did you self-learn? Did you have a mentor? How did that come about?
Yeah, so I did self-learn a lot. And I also had mentors, but to start things off, I just had to have that screw it, do it mentality. Just give it a try. And fortunately for me, I've always been very brave and definitely unafraid of consequences. And so pulling the trigger on my own business didn't even seem like a risk on the first one. I had nothing to lose, man. Like, I didn't have any money, so what was I going to lose? So it was all, to me, anything was better than where I was at. So starting that first business as a bail bondsman, and then moving on to into nutrition, and then in real estate and all these things I'm into, it actually gets harder. It gets more risky as time goes on. Or there's this weird place where you're putting down a lot of money, but it's all the money you have, and so there is a bigger risk when you actually have money to lose. The whole thing was screw it, do it. Let's just try it and see where it's at. Now, I am not formally educated. I was kicked out of college twice due to my alcoholism, and so I never finished college. I just went out and tried things, and I listened to others. Unfortunately for me, I met a guy. He was an extremely successful businessman, and he could pretty much do any business and apply his knowledge, and it would go. And so I just did what he told me to do for a long time. And then when I got comfortable in what he told me to do, I would twist it and kind of make it my own. And for instance, he never wanted me working out in the community. He never told me go out in your community and volunteer or go to races and hand out your product or anything. He was more about, get a good customer, but get out in the community and know people. Well, that's great and all, but there's only so many opportunities to do that. And I found out that if I'm out in the community, I'm actually altruistically giving back to the community will take care of you. And we've done that in this town that we live in, Greeley, Colorado. I think there's 120,000 people here. We start something up, we have a built-in customer base because we've been out in the community for so long. 20 years or so of working at helping other people has paid off. And so that, and I think everybody should have mentors in their life. I mentor people. I enjoy mentoring younger folks, folks that maybe haven't quite understood what life's about yet. And I get to watch that happen. And that's fun for me.
That was actually going to be something I was about to mention was, I'm 22. everyone around me, the peers I talk to, everyone's like, man, one minute I got this plan and the next it's something completely different. I think around your 20s and maybe even to your 30s, you're still trying to find what your purpose, your passions, what you're
Right.
interested in is, and all that. I've watched other people, podcasts, all these things, and people that are much older than me and have much more wisdom generally say things like, just go try things, just keep just jump, like kind of how you said,
Right.
like screw it and do it, just jump into the deep end and just do it.
Yep.
Like, what are your thoughts on that exactly?
Yeah. That really, that's exactly what you have to do. We try to eliminate the risk or the fear that comes with just jumping in with both feet by doing our homework and making sure the industry can handle it, or what kind of money do I need to make, or how much do I need to borrow. The preliminary business plans and things like that can definitely help you eliminate some of that risk. But at the end of the day, how to jump in with both feet. And I've always done things I wanted to do, but I quickly got bored with them and was doing everything to set them up and have other people do them for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be running my own businesses. I want to have a little bit of freedom. I want to be able to consult with my managers or consult with my employees rather than micromanage them. And I think that allows you, for exactly what you were just saying, at a young age, you can start up a company at 22, 23 years old. And by the time you're 26 or 27, start a different company,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have to leave one to do the other. Currently I own 4 different companies, and I'm a part of every one of them every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I just am not, I don't sit in the office down there and talk to people on the phone. That's not my deal. I talk to employees and I coach them and motivate them to continue to do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the highly important part is, if you think about helping others, if we just say at the end of the day, whatever the forces may be, we're supposed to help other people in this world. That's our whole design, right? It's just for the sake of argument, that's what we're supposed to do. And so how many people can I help if I'm going to work 12, 15 hours a day and I'm digging ditches?
Mm-hmm.
No problem. I dug ditches. I was a concrete guy for years, but I was only helping myself or maybe paying the rent for my family. So a very small amount of people could I help with my job. But as I grew into entrepreneurship and I started hiring people, and my sphere got bigger and my employees' spheres got bigger, all of a sudden, now I communicate with 50,000 people a week. And to me, that's what I'm growing is the ability to help others.
Mm-hmm.
And when you take it out and it's altruistic, and when you take out all the BS that goes along with, so people think it's all about money and whatnot. And really, if you take the focus off of money, put it on to helping others, and you're real about it, success is around the corner, man. Money is a byproduct.
No, I love that because I read this book called Life's Great Question. And there
Mm,
was this quote that was like, everyone's trying to find their passion, but we should all focus on what's our contribution,
right.
right? So how can you help other people? And passion kind of follows. And I started thinking about that. I'm like, yeah, it actually kind of sounds right. If you focus on helping others, your passion's just going to follow rather than
Right.
kind of stressing about like, what am I into? Trying to find your personal goal is only trying to help yourself by trying to find your own passions just often sometimes doesn't work out.
Yeah, that's the truth, man. And I love that. That's very smart. And it's no different than saying what's my purpose. And we all have a purpose. We all have different things we're good at. We need employees. We need entrepreneurs
Mm-hmm.
in order for this great world of capitalism to go around. And everybody's a player. I mean, I have a secretary that sits in my office, and she basically runs my business for me, and I trust her wholeheartedly. And, and but I couldn't have a successful business if it wasn't for her. But she
Mm-hmm.
couldn't run the business. She don't want that responsibility. And together, because we have these values in our business. Compassion is one of them that she runs with the bail bonds company. Compassion is a big proponent of that. That's a big value for us. And so for her, she's living the purpose of being compassionate, which she is very compassionate. She helps so many people, but she's living that through her job. And so it really helps her stay focused and feel like she's doing something for the world when she can do that.
Yeah, it sounds like, you end up loving what you do, even if
Yeah.
it's your job, if you feel like you're helping people and making a difference.
Yeah. And I think you just nailed it right on the head.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what we do that is our passion. It's who we do it for and how we do it that is the passion.
Yeah, I like that. I guess a side question real quick. You said you had 4 companies, correct?
Yeah, 4 different companies that, I believe in doing ancillary companies. So we're into real estate right now. I have my bail bonds company that'll never go away. But we got into being real estate agents, owning a real estate company. And then along with that, I have a company that builds houses. And then I have a development company as well. And between the 4 businesses, 3 of them are actually focused in one area.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't take me too far off path, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And is that more common? Do people that have multiple companies, is it around the same sector, or do people diversify a little bit? Or have you noticed that?
I have noticed, and a lot of people diversify. And I also diversify on how I make my money. But, at any given time, yes, if the market crashed and the housing market was dead, 3 of my companies would go bye-bye, but that is not my mainstay of money. That is my investment.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that you've got to make hay while I don't know how that saying goes, but
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, you got to make the money while you can. And,
Yeah.
there's, it's funny because especially real estate, everybody thinks the money's in being a real estate agent, and it's not. That's great money, but the money is in the ancillary businesses, the people that inspect the homes, the people that do the appraisals, the house cleaners. I mean, the amount of money that we have to pay to sell a home is extraordinary. And we have our people, the contractors that come in that own their own businesses, and they come in and they fix up the house so that we can sell it or whatever. And, those guys are making money, and everybody gets a piece of the pie. The real estate agent appears to be making a lot of money, but at the end of the day, they're only making about 1/3 of what they're bringing in.
So you're saying all the upkeep companies, basically?
Yeah. And so in my opinion, why wouldn't I own an insurance company that provides the homeowners the insurance? Why wouldn't I own inspecting company that would inspect the home for the buyer as they're, you know what I'm saying? Like, why not try and capture all that money and keep it in my pocket, rather than give it away to someone else? And I think a lot of companies do that. If you look at any bigger company, any corporation, they try and buy their way. They try to feed themselves. For instance, when I owned the nutrition stores, we had a clothing line and we had a supplement line. And, so we needed shirts to give away. And so rather than pay somebody else for these shirts and have them printed and all that, we just went into business with a printing guy, and, we were able to, it paid for our shirt. So that's kind of my philosophy, trying to keep it all in house. And there's just so many different avenues and places that you spend money when you own a business. It's nice to try and capture it all.
And with all these businesses and everything, right? I think one of the biggest goals, in my opinion, to be achieved is happiness, right?
Yes.
And that goes along with contribution. Are you happy on what you do? Do you wake up every day excited to get the ball rolling, or do you drag your feet when you get to your job? That kind of thing. And I noticed you had an acronym for happiness, correct?
Yeah. Live like you're dying.
Yeah.
the philosophy came in 2016. I was at work. I was given at a speaking event at the courthouse, and I was talking to 52 probation officers, and I dropped dead of massive heart failure. And here I was in the best shape of my life. I was drug and alcohol free for 15 years at that time, or just a little less. And there was absolutely no reason for me to have heart failure, but it ended my life. I died on the spot. They brought me back to life. And when I came to, I was in the hospital, and the doctors gave me a very short lifespan, maximum 5 years, but most likely to have a heart transplant within a couple of years. And then that's when, your heart transplant, the life expectancy is about 10 years after you have one of those. So I wasn't going to see my 60s, I figured. And so I went on when the doctor said, if you make it past the first 6 months, you have this many years left, or we can get you a heart transplant, blah, blah, blah. So in my eyes, I heard, you may not live 6 months. So I just went out and started doing things. Like I went out and saw people that I hadn't seen in a while. I made sure to go to my family's, the people in my family, and visit them, and really spend quality time with these people instead of just going to visit. I would, we would visit like it was the last time we were going to see each other. And so I started doing things that I always wanted to do. I started painting. I started, I bought the car I always wanted. I started traveling, and I just started living a lot freer, knowing that I'm probably not going to get to do this again. And that's where the phrase came from, live like you're dying, because in that moment, I was all of a sudden the wealthiest I've ever been, due to the fact that my relationships had grown, and the moments that I spent with these people were so precious. And that's the big, I'll blow the whole book is ditches to riches, and the riches is not money. The riches is relationships, and it's moments in time. It was very important to become a person who cared about other people and made a legacy, rather than making money. And that's where that phrase came from. Now, I don't think that you can always be happy when you wake up in the morning. But I sure try to be, I sing a song every morning. I get in the shower and I scream and yell and have fun. And, that I got a really cool shower, and I just love it, man. So yeah.
Is it like one of those rainfall showers or something?
I got 2 rainfalls and 6 heads, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's just awesome, man. So yeah, that's where my day starts. And I always do try to be, at least start off positive and happy. It is one of my values, you'll find in the book, is happiness. And it's not always easy to be happy. And of course we have anger and these other feelings that come along throughout the day. But again, that's more about moments of your day. It doesn't have to define your whole day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I try to live by.
And how would you recommend that for people that are younger that don't, right? So let's say you're saying live every day like it's going to be your last. But what if, someone's like, okay, well, I want to travel, I want to do this and that, but as a younger person, you don't have that funds to do as many things as you want to. Right. That's why you're probably grinding in your early years to, have a better future. What do you say on that dichotomy right there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was the same way, man. I didn't have any money when I was young. You're not going to, traveling. So you travel, you drive up to the mountains in Colorado. We always drive to the mountains for the weekend. Mm-hmm. You find things that make you happy that don't cost you money. Be a little more creative. It isn't about the money you're spending or the place you're going. It's about the journey getting there, and it's about the time you're spending while you're doing it. There are so many things that we can do. And it don't even have to be the do. Like, learning to paint was the silliest thing ever, but I wanted to do it. And so I got on YouTube and I started researching all the different ways you could paint and styles and paints that you use and acrylics versus oil. And I spent a good 6 or 8 months just making crap and having fun, and by the time it was done, I was pretty good and I was having art shows and doing, having fundraisers and all this stuff. And, it was all just about the idea of wanting to paint. And I think as a young person, having multiple jobs is an absolute. I tell my kids now, if you don't have enough money, get another job. And my kids all do pretty well. They haven't asked me for any money. That's been cool. So, and they do. They find, of course, we're not going to live free and just get to go traveling. And nobody in the world gets to do that. And unless they're super, super rich. And I'm not one of those either. And I don't plan on retiring and doing, just living every day in a different place or anything like that. It's, I think our freedom and the freedom to live and learning how to live, that's from within. It's all about making ourselves happy.
Yeah.
I think we get hung up on money way too much.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as a kid, we just want to make money. And I hear all these lofty goals of retiring when you're 45 and things like that. And it all sounds great when you're working your butt off as a 22, 23, 24-year-old. Yeah, I'm going to retire when I'm 45. But man, you'd be bored,
Yeah.
So you just learn to do other things, and work isn't as important when you get older, especially if you made some money along the way and you have that freedom. And that whole process is highly important when you're young. In your 20s, yeah, you should be working your butt off. Absolutely. And no, you're not going to travel as much, but when you do, enjoy it for every second that you're doing it.
No, I definitely see that. And with this new generation and with technology being very prominent, I've noticed another very difficult obstacle is kind of drowning out all the happiness that's around you when you're looking at social media, right? So you look up, a Ferrari, or you look up a millionaire, and you'll see someone who's like 25 and a millionaire or something.
Right.
And that's like that's very few, right? It's not very common, but you can literally Google young millionaires and you'll see just a ton of them. So it'll feel like there's a ton of them. And I noticed that's a very difficult obstacle for people nowadays, is that they're surrounded by things that they think should come quicker than it does.
Right. Absolutely.
And the patience aspect with that.
And I think technology has made some very young millionaires. You think about social media influencers and how they make their money, and they've shortcut all the hard work. However, it takes so much hard work. This, trying to start your own podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It takes so much work to do these things. But we're not going to put the hard work on social media. We're going to put the cars we bought, the houses we bought, it's all smoke and mirrors, in my opinion. There's hard work involved in everything you do. And especially if you want to make $1 million at it, you've got to work your butt off. I always look at people that have more money than me. I'm not envious of them because I know how much more work they have to do than I do. A billionaire has no time. Yeah, sure, they're traveling everywhere, but that they're being asked the question every second of every day they're awake.
Mm-hmm.
The adversities just change, and they become more complex. And I have no interest in being a billionaire. I wouldn't want that much money.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'll take 10 or 15 million, but my goal was to just be able to stop working at a certain age, and I'm almost there. And it's only going to take, I won't give the number. But it's a few $1 million is all it really takes to be done working and work, not work because you have to, but work because you want to.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway.
And I was just going to say, I read this book a long while back called I think Billionaire Mindset or something. Mm. And there was like 10 points. And then the last one was, it's not cut out for a lot of people. And
Yeah.
it was talking about how, billionaires' adversities, like they have to solve problems that nobody's solved before. You have nobody to go to, nobody to ask, because they're solving problems that have never been, dealt
Man.
with because of the magnitude of how much money and, how big their company is. And they're always traveling. They have no time for family, things like that.
Yeah, man. And I didn't even, great point, man. I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
think about that. That,
Mm-hmm.
they're, you look at Elon Musk and how SpaceX almost went out of business until NASA, gave them a big, huge I think $6 billion contract.
Mm-hmm.
And he cries when he talks about that moment because he was a billionaire about to lose everything. And this company comes along and saves him. And it was the hard work that he put in. But could you imagine the amount of pressure on you as a billionaire and hundreds of thousands of employees, and just that pressure in making money? And I tell my kids the same thing: enjoy at 22, 23, 25 years old, enjoy the simplicity of your life. It is so simple to pay rent in your in your bedroom, in your 1 bedroom house full of kids. It's so easy to pay that $400 a month or $500 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and split the cable bill. That stuff is, you'll never get it back. And it may seem like all you're doing is paying bills, but it's the least amount of bills you're ever going to pay in your
Mm-hmm.
life. And you should just enjoy it. The adversities get much bigger as you make more money, as you bring on more messes. I think we just learn to deal with the pressure of it.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when I started the nutrition stores, we had 4 of them, and my wife and I used to go for a walk every single day, and we'd walk around the neighborhood and go home. And at one point during owning those, we were talking business, and I had a panic attack, which I had no clue what a panic attack was. I didn't know that's what I was having at the time, but I basically was walking, and then all of a sudden I passed out
Mm-hmm.
and hit the deck. And all it was the amount of pressure. And when we started talking about it, I just started, you know, building this pressure up in my own self. And I guess panic attacks cause heart issues and whatnot. And ultimately that's probably what killed me. So
Yeah, stress is a big killer.
yeah.
Stress is a huge killer. And I'm sure that helped with your recovery as well, as when you started going around talking to family and spending quality moments, your stress probably like went down a lot.
So I have made or I've made my downtime a priority. And so I absolutely go fishing. I absolutely go golfing. I absolutely hang out in my pool. And I've made those things available to me. And that's like a part of my routine in life now, is the no work, no phone calls, no nothing moments that I can get. And so I feel like I work really hard for a few hours, and then I go take a break and do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy that. And I look forward to it. I know that's probably not a typical millionaire's brain, but that's how I figure I'm going to live long enough to enjoy my life.
Mm-hmm.
So
So we talked a little bit about, mindsets, prosperity, what wealth really means, family, stress, all these things. And I think one more important last point we should talk about is your circle, your social circle, your friend
yeah,
groups, and how that
absolutely.
impacts you as well, right? Because family, you know, you don't pick your family. Your
Right.
family's your family, but you pick your friends, and that's
Right.
very important. And I've heard things like, oftentimes your salary or your net worth is often around your friend group. Like your
Right.
friend group's net worth is similar to yours, or something like that, right? All right, so I'm here with Tyler Foley.
I'm businessman, entrepreneur, jack of all trades, child actor. And if you are finding value in learn or be learned, and what Shiva has to offer to you, with finding value of the guests that he's bringing on or the information that he's bringing himself to this podcast. First of all, I want you to hit pause and give it a 5-star review, because the only way that he's going to be able to get better guests on that are able to bring information to you so that you can hear it, the only way he's going to do that is the more 5-star reviews he gets. So I need you to hit pause right now and give a 5-star review.
Well, so yeah, what I think I've heard it over and over again. You can determine your future by the friends you hang out with.
Yeah.
And I believe that some of that's true, especially when we're young. In our 20s, we really should focus up on having friends that are bilateral rather than unilateral. You know, the unilateral relationship of an 18-year-old, meaning, oh, we go out and get drunk together, or we go out and do this together. You know, that it's a friendship based on something you do rather than a friendship based on a relationship. And so over time, so for instance, you know, I have a best friend and he's a teacher. He makes $55,000 a year. No, we don't have the same bank book.
Mhm.
However, we have a lot of the same morals and values, and we love to fish together, and that's what we do. And so he's my ride or die friend. So you talk about the kind of people that you should have around you. I think you should have a ride or die friend, at least one of those. I have 3. My wife asked me to start including her in that. So, so I now have 3 instead of 2. It broke her heart the last time I said I have 2. So, but so my ride or die friends, those are guys that you can tell them anything on earth. They've been there. In fact, my really good ride or die friends, the two other guys besides my wife, have been there when I was homeless. They have been there and tried to help me when I was using and abusing. So, and vice versa. I've helped them in their trying times too. But usually you have a little bit of time with these guys. These guys are the ones that you probably grew up with or have known for many, many years, and you just trust them with anything that comes out of your mouth. And sometimes, most of the time, they're not really there to change your trajectory. They're mostly there to either egg you on or, you know, be your fan or just listen sometimes. Those are highly important because the rest of them aren't really as locked in as that ride or die friend. Of course, I think we need to have business mentors, business friendships. And I have lots of those. Those guys are the guys I go have coffee with, and we basically talk shop. And because you should never, you know, I always say poop rolls uphill, not downhill. You don't want to go to your employees and complain about what's going on in your company. You don't want to go to your kids and complain about what's going on with the bills. You know, it needs to go uphill. And when you're a business owner, you can only go to other business owners because everybody else is your employee. So I like to go to my business friends and we compare notes and help each other out. And these are people that I can call up and get, you know, ideas or brainstorm with. And when you're young, when you're in your 20s, most of those people are going to be successful and a little older. And, you know, it's a different relationship and you're probably going to do a lot of listening. Whereas when you get a little older and a little wiser, you're going to do a lot of talking and a lot less listening. And that's okay. You know, that's the circle of life. I always try to have spiritual friends as well. My spiritual friend is Jim Hensel, the guy I was talking about before. And he's not a religious friend. Let me get this straight. He's a spiritual friend. So he helps me stay connected to my values and who I be as a person. We use the word be, and B, capital E, stands for your talents, your values, and your purpose. And when you can do things that support your B, then your life will be much happier. And you'll stay focused into your purpose rather than on all the busyness going on around you. And so I'll connect with him. And he's almost a ride or die because I can tell him almost anything. But he's not going to care about how I feel. He's going to care about my values and how I think. Not to say I can't call him and be like, oh, I'm so mad right now. But he's going to say, okay, great. You're mad. Now what do we do? And,
Yeah.
whereas the ride or die friend, you're going to bitch and moan on his shoulder and,
yeah,
that is what it is. So, and then my executor friends. So I have, people that just like to get shit done, man. Just let's get it done. Those people, and this is honestly where I had put my wife in the first place because, my executor friends are usually business partners, people that get things done that I can trust, that I can lean on, that I can give things to, tasks to, and they just get them done. And the reason I classify them as friends rather than, a business partner or an acquaintance is because I'm always trying to have a tighter relationship with people than just the surface of a partner. I have a friendship with these people. And when we have a breakup, when we have to break up a company or stop being friends, it hurts. But that's the purpose. I wasn't in it well enough if my executor friend isn't a friend, I don't know them well enough if I haven't learned something about them. And if I have to fire someone at work, it should hurt me, that means I was doing my job as a boss. And so, yeah, those are the four main friends. And then the fifth one that I always say we need I call them friendlies. And we all have them. They're people that know us. We know them too, but like your social media friends, you keep up with them on social media. You probably, if you saw them in the community, you would say hi and have a meaningless talk about what's going on in your life, basically. But these people are highly important because they're your customer base. They're highly important to your business, not so much your life. For instance, we're getting ready to have a 4th of July party. Now, 2 years ago, we invited, it was an open invitation for everybody. All the friendlies in the world came. They wanted to see our mansion on the hill, and they were all, they were just impressed. But it got out of hand. People that we barely knew were acting a fool. We didn't know them well enough to know how they acted when they were at parties and drinking and things like that. And things got out of hand. Now this year we're inviting about 30 friends, and we know every single one of them and we trust them. That's the difference. The great thing about friendlies is that when you start up a business, they're in your sphere and they are your customers. So every time you start something up, you have an automatic customer base. For instance, we took all the people that we knew from our nutrition stores, roughly 15,000 people in our database, and we just said, hey, we're going into real estate. If you need to buy or sell, give us a call. And lo and behold, we had 5 people in the first week that were looking to buy and sell houses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And if you do the math on, 3% commission, it was, $30,000, $40,000. And that was a great way to start the business. So, it's important. And these guys, so what we do for these friends, because you can't really keep track of them all, there's, hundreds, if not thousands of people that you're connected to that know you, but you don't necessarily know them. You're not really into their lives, but you want to be. You just want them to know you're out there and that you appreciate them. So we give them, like, we'll order quarterly, we give out gifts to our sphere. And so, like, we gave out free ice cream cones at the local Goober's ice cream here. And we sent these tickets that gave out free ice cream to everybody in our sphere. It cost us a couple of $1,000 to give out ice cream, but everybody that got one knew that we appreciated them. And it keeps them around and it keeps them being a customer. So they're really important as well. It's just, they're not tight, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you kind of got like a full sphere of different types of friend groups.
Mm-hmm. And for me, so just so you know, and I did a lot of thinking on this friendship thing. When I came up with my values, there was values that I had or put down that I wanted to be. And now I never thought I was a good friend because I could never give enough time to people in order to be a friend. I didn't have that time to invest, nor did I want to. I didn't, if it didn't happen naturally, I didn't want to give the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was important for me to break down the friendships in order for me to understand where I was at with them. It comes from a huge amount of insecurity that I grew up with and had to put wraps on. And so, that by being able to define friendships and put them into categories, I was actually able to be a better friend.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I'm going to have to use that. Well,
Steal it.
Yeah. Well, everyone, thanks for listening. And Ron Worley, thank you for being on here. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing everything that you got.
Oh, thank you so much, Shiva. It's been fun.